Hello again. I am back with another story. This time, this story is probably for children. It came about because my grandson was having quite a hard time at school, first year at school, by other kids not being very pleasant. So this is how this came around. And I think it probably, on reading it and writing it, it helped me quite a lot, to be quite honest. So please enjoy with a child, your grandchildren or anyone. And actually, I am sitting looking at a rowan tree, or a rowan bush, let's put it that way. My son-in-law keeps trying to chop them down, but they are very pervasive and they keep coming back, which makes me very happy because it's a protection plant. So obviously, this story, when it's read to you children or adults, you will inherit that protection. So welcome once again to Whispering from the Rowan Tree. And this story I'd like to share for the very first story in a new little woodland series called Moss and Bramble. It's a gentle tale about kindness, friendship, and discovering that the smallest creatures can sometimes teach us the biggest lessons. So find a comfortable place, take a slow breath, and let's wander beneath the old rowan tree together. And as I said before, this is the first story from the little woodland world of Moss and Bramble. They are so sweet that I will, or I do intend to write some more stories, mainly for me actually. They're so lovely. So this one is The Day Moss Grew Prickles. At the edge of the little wood where brambles tangled themselves around the old stone wall, and the rowan tree stretched its branches over everything as though keeping watch, Moss had found something unusual. It was a ball. At least Moss thought it was a ball. It was brown, it was prickly, and it was sitting directly in the middle of the path. Moss bent down. Bramble, who had learned from experience that moss bending down to inspect mysterious things often led to trouble, she stayed where she was. "What is it?" she asked. "I don't know," Moss replied. "Well, perhaps you shouldn't put your nose so close to it." "Your nose is nearly touching it," Bramble said. "I look better with my nose," replied Moss. Bramble thought about this. It doesn't make any sense at all, but Moss was her friend, so she let it go. Moss leaned in a tiny bit closer and the ball moved. Moss shot backwards and landed in a patch of clover. Bramble laughed. "You should have seen your face." "I wasn't frightened." "You squeaked." "I did not." "You did. Like this." Bramble made a tiny, high-pitched squeaking noise. Moss stood up and brushed clover from his fur. "That wasn't me." The prickly ball moved again. Then, very slowly, a small black nose appeared. 2 bright eyes followed, and then a little face, followed by 4 tiny feet. The ball was not a ball at all. It was a hedgehog. "Well," said the hedgehog, "that was exciting." Moss stared. The hedgehog stared back. Bramble came closer. "Why were you pretending to be a ball?" "I wasn't pretending," said the hedgehog. "I was protecting myself." "From what?" The hedgehog looked at Moss. "From the enormous nose coming towards me." Bramble began laughing again. Moss did not. Although after a moment, even he had to smile. The hedgehog's name was Prickles. He lived beneath the thickest part of the hedge with his grandmother, who, according to Prickles, knew absolutely everything. She doesn't really know everything, he explained as they walked. But I wouldn't tell her that. Why not? Moss asked. Well, because she has been alive for a very long time. How long? I don't know. 100 years, perhaps. From somewhere beneath the hedge, a voice came. I heard that. Prickles stopped. Or possibly 6, he said quickly. The leaves rustled. Out came Grandmother Hedgehog. She was not very big. In fact, Moss thought she was one of the smallest grandmothers he had ever seen. But there was something about her that made Moss immediately stand a little straighter. She had bright, clever eyes and a black nose that seemed to notice everything. So, she said, looking at Moss and Bramble, you are the two who live near the Rowan tree. Moss nodded. And you, she said to Bramble, are the sensible one. Bramble looked delighted. Moss looked offended. Grandmother Hedgehog smiled. I was only teasing you, Moss. How did you know my name? I listened. To what? Everything, Grandmother said. Prickles whispered to Bramble, I told you. Grandmother Hedgehog gave him a look. Prickles immediately became very interested in a beetle. They all sat beneath the hedge together. Moss wanted to know about Prickles. He wanted to know what they felt like. Prickles, that is. He wanted to know whether they hurt. He wanted to know whether Prickles had ever accidentally sat on himself. No, said Prickles. Are you sure? Yes. Never? No. What if? Moss, said Bramble. All right. Prickles explained that when he was frightened, he could curl himself into a tight ball. He demonstrated. His little face disappeared. His legs disappeared. His soft tummy disappeared. All Moss and Bramble could see was a round bundle of sharp prickles. Moss walked around him. Can you hear me in there? Yes. Can you see me? No. Can you smell me? Unfortunately. Bramble giggled. Moss looked thoughtful. I wish I could do that. Prickles slowly uncurled. Why? Moss shrugged. No reason. Grandmother Hedgehog looked at him and she didn't ask. Instead, she told them about hedgehogs. She told them how hedgehogs wandered through the grass and along the bottom of hedgerows looking for food. She told them about their excellent sense of smell. And she said that hedgehogs could grunt and snuffle and huff. Prickles, demonstrated. He grunted, he snuffed, he huffed. And then he made a noise so surprising that Moss jumped. What was that? My frightening noise, said Prickles proudly. It frightened me, said Moss. Well, good, replied Prickles. Then Grandmother Hedgehog told them about something called self-anointing. Bramble and Moss listened carefully and Prickles looked so delighted. Grandmother Hedgehog explained that sometimes a hedgehog discovered an interesting new smell and began making frothy saliva, which it spread all over its spines. Moss stared at Prickles. You cover yourself in spit? Prickles lifted his nose proudly. Special spit. It's still spit. Special hedgehog spit, insisted Prickles. That's disgusting, said Moss. Grandmother Hedgehog laughed. She had a warm laugh, the sort of laugh that made everybody else want to join in. even if they weren't quite sure what was funny. But after a while, she noticed that Moss had become quiet. "You really do wish you had prickles, don't you?" she said. Moss picked at a blade of grass. "Sometimes." "Why?" Grandmother asked gently. Moss was quiet for a little longer, and then he said, "Because sometimes I worry about things." Prickles blinked. "So do I." Moss looked surprised. "But you have armour." "Of course I worry. That's why I have armour." Moss had never thought of it like that. He looked at Grandmother Hedgehog. "Does the armour make the fear go away?" "No," she said gently. "It just gives us somewhere safe to be while the fear settles down." Moss looked at the ground. Grandmother Hedgehog moved a little closer to him. "You know, Moss, everyone has soft parts." Moss looked at Prickles. "Even him?" "Especially him." "Oi," said Prickles. Grandmother Hedgehog smiled. "Prickles looks very tough when he curls into a ball. But inside all those spikes is a little creature with a soft tummy and a beating heart." Prickles looked rather embarrassed. Grandmother continued, "His prickles don't mean he never feels less frightened. And they don't mean that nothing can hurt him. They simply help him protect the soft parts while he decides what to do." Moss thought about this. "But I haven't got any prickles." "No," said Grandmother Hedgehog, "but you have other things." "What things?" "You have the Rowan tree." Moss looked towards the old tree. "You have Bramble." Bramble moved a little closer to him. "You have places where you feel safe. You have people you can talk to. And most of all, you have your imagination. And you have the ability to stop when everything feels too big." Grandmother Hedgehog touched her nose gently to Moss's paw. "Sometimes when a worry comes rushing towards you, you don't have time to chase it away. You can simply say, 'Not yet. I'm going to make myself safe first.'" "How?" Moss says. "Imagine your prickles coming up," Grandmother asked. Moss closed his eyes. "Can you see them?" asked Grandmother Hedgehog. "Yes." "What do they look like?" Moss thought. "Purple." Prickles uncurled immediately. "Purple?" "Yes." "Hedgehog prickles are not purple." "Mine are," said Moss. Prickles looked at his grandmother. "Can he do that?" In his imagination, he can do anything he likes. Prickles looked deeply dissatisfied with this arrangement. Moss continued. "My prickles are purple and silver at the ends." "Show off," muttered Prickles. "And they sparkle." "Oh, for goodness sake." Bramble was laughing so hard she rolled onto her back, and Grandmother Hedgehog smiled. "Very good. Now imagine the worry outside the prickles. You know it's there, but it cannot rush straight into your soft centre. You have time." "How much time?" "As much as you need. And then you listen." "To the worry?" "Yes. Sometimes worries need something from us. Some need help from someone we trust. Some need us to do something. And some are just simply noisy little worries that eventually get tired and wander away." Like Moss, Bramble asked, "I do not wander away." "You wandered away last Tuesday." "I came back." "Yes, only because you got hungry," Bramble giggled. Grandmother Hedgehog smiled. After you have waited and listened, you can take a little peep. Prickles demonstrated by curling into a ball again, and then very slowly his nose appeared, and then one eye. Like this, he said. Moss laughed. And if it isn't safe, he asked. Then you can ask for help, Grandmother Hedgehog said. No one should stay curled up alone with a big fear when there's somebody kind nearby. Bramble reached for Moss's paw. And when it's safe, Moss asked. Grandmother Hedgehog's voice became very gentle. Then, little by little, you uncurl. That evening, Moss and Bramble walked back towards the rowan tree. The sun was disappearing behind the wood and the sky was turning the colour of warm honey. They walked quietly for a while, and then Bramble noticed that Moss had stopped. What is it? Moss was looking towards the darkening trees. I was just thinking about something. A worry? Asked Bramble. Maybe. Bramble sat beside him. She didn't tell him not to worry. She didn't tell him that everything was fine or that he was being silly. She simply said, Prickles, up. Moss thought about his imaginary purple and silver armour. Yes, he smiled. Bramble sat beside him, and above them the rowan leaves moved softly in the evening breeze. Somewhere beneath the hedge, Prickles was snuffling loudly. And then came Grandmother Hedgehog's voice. Prickles, stop making that dreadful noise. I'm foraging, Grandmother. No, you're standing in my dinner. Oh. Somewhere underneath the rowan tree, Moss smiled. A little while had passed. Bramble was still beside him. The rowan tree was still above him. The worry was still somewhere nearby, but it didn't seem quite so enormous now. So Moss took a long, slow breath, then another. Bramble looked at him. Moss smiled. I think I can uncurl now. And together, beneath that old rowan tree, they were home. Thank you for spending a little time beneath the rowan tree with Moss and Bramble. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love you to join us again because there are going to be more adventures waiting in their little woodland world. And until next time, may your heart be gentle, your imagination stay curious, and may you always find your way home beneath the rowan tree. And if there are any children listening, please believe, even if you only use your imagination, you have armour. You have superpowers. You can imagine any armour you want to if something or someone is being mean to you. Imagine that armour or that superpower and take a breath, and you can make a choice. Leave or just be quiet and take time to understand what's happening. You can go to an adult or a friend. Whatever is happening there in front of you. If you pause, back away, and then just imagine it stuck to your prickles until it blows away, or just let it go. And don't worry, little ones. Please don't worry. You are super beings.